I guess it's a 5-Minute Friday. Alright, well, with this being a little bit of a different 5-Minute Friday, I want to first start off and say I apologize for missing the last 2 weeks because I've been pretty sick and lost my voice for 1 week. The second week I was coughing a lot and I just really couldn't concentrate enough to do one of these. So hopefully you understand, but we're back in the saddle and we're going to give it a go. So for this week, I thought I would try something a little bit different. I got asked a couple times about showing the plates that I did for the travel speed and showing the back side of the plates and showing the difference in the heat input and things like that. So figured, why not? Let's give it a shot, see how it goes. So here we go. So let's put 5 minutes on the clock and get started. Now here are a couple of the plates that I welded. Obviously you can see which ones were faster and which ones were a little bit slower. And this one here is the one that I welded completely all the way around without stopping. And if you flip it over, you can really see how much the heat affected the backside versus the faster ones where we flip it over, and really just right at the end over here is where the heat started to build up a little bit. So I think it's kind of cool on these where you can see where it comes close to the holes. It almost comes to a point right there. I always think that's pretty interesting because the heat's going to travel to the path of least resistance. So whenever you have a hole, that's where the heat's going to go. It's going to focus right towards that hole. And that can be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. One other thing I thought about doing in one of these videos is having a couple plates cut where there's like a U shape cut out of it, like, or an alignment pin area or something like that, and weld it and show you that that'll actually close up on you while you're welding around it. So you want to look at those type of things on a print before you go to weld those, because you can really screw up a part if that happens and that part's already been machined and you weld it together and that little slot closes up on you. So just something to think about. When it comes to these 4 plates, I'm not 100% sure what you'd like to see. In the video, I did show this being the beginning of the weld and that being the end of the weld. And you can see how much the heat, it was pretty warm to begin with. And as it goes around, it starts getting hotter and hotter and wider and wider and wider and wider all the way to the end. So I didn't burn all the way through this plate by any means, but there is a couple spots like right here where it gets a little bit questionable, but it definitely didn't burn through though. So I did see a comment about how badly did the plates warp, and surprisingly they didn't really warp up that much. I think a lot of that had to do with having the plates screwed down to an aluminum plate that was attached to the positioner, so that acted like a heat sink. And I also tried to keep that heat sink cool between each one of the plates that I was doing, just to try to keep things a little bit more fair, I guess you could say. But the plates did warp up a little bit, so let me show you that. Here again are the same 4 plates, and I mean they warped up a little bit, but I think that's, I didn't have those plates clamped down to that heat sink more than just finger tight on that bolt, because I didn't want it to seize with all the heat that I was putting into that bolt. And I also didn't want to put any anti-seize or anything like that on the nut that was in the chuck, because it starts to smell really bad. And I was already starting to feel kind of bad the day that I was filming that, so I was trying to not make things smell bad, because that just would have been bad. So hopefully this 5-Minute Friday is a little bit different, but hopefully you liked it. I can show you a little bit more in detail about these plates, how things actually went. If you have any comments or future 5-Minute Fridays that you'd like to see, comment below or leave them over on the forum in the 5-Minute Friday section, and we'll get to them next time. Thanks everybody. We'll catch you next week.